Hi, everybody. Dave Sullivan here, part of the marketing team over at People Driven Credit Union. And today we have a very special guest, Robert Wittenberg from the Oakland County. Are you the Oakland County Treasurer?
I am, yes.
So that's an elected position, correct? You
That's
ran for that
correct.
position?
Yep, that's
Good
right.
for you. And are you up for election again?
I am. So I run every 4 years in presidential year. So I was elected in 2020 for the first time, and then I'm up for re-election again this year.
This presentation will have a big effect on your re-election campaign, I'm assuming.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
We really appreciate you having on here. Property tax foreclosure. I think it's something that hopefully not many people run into, but I think we need to know about it. And also, maybe you could cover at the end if you don't have it covered. If people were interested in buying tax foreclosures, maybe could you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yes, for sure. And it's actually a pretty timely topic because the foreclosure deadline every year is actually March 31st, but it falls, if March 31st falls on a weekend, then it's April 1st is the foreclosure deadline or whatever the first business day is after the 31st. And so yesterday actually was our foreclosure deadline. And so I will go through kind of the foreclosure process. In essence, it's a 3-year process. So I'll jump in on that. You have to think of each tax year separately. There are, your summer and winter taxes, depending on where you live. Your summer taxes are due by a certain date. Your winter taxes are due by a certain date. If you have an escrow account, then typically that's paid for you and you don't even know. You just get a copy or someone sends your tax bill. But ultimately, every year you have, in essence, 3 years before the foreclosure. So to give you an idea, so the timeline we're looking at here is for 2022 taxes. So these are the taxes that will be subject to foreclosure in 2025. So in 2022, you had your summer and winter taxes. If you miss payments on either or both of those, they get turned over to the county for collection. This is something, there's 83 counties in Michigan. All 83 counties go through the same process. You guys are in Southfield, at least your headquarters is in Southfield. So the city of Southfield, you owe your taxes in 2022 to them, the summer and winter. If the payment is not made by March 1st, so in March 1st of 2023 for these 2022 taxes, they get turned over to us. So we, in essence, cash flow the local community. We go through what's called settlement with them. We buy that debt, if you will. However many parcels didn't pay their taxes, we look at the numbers, we run it, and then we cash flow them 100%. And then we, in essence, become the collections agent for those delinquent taxes. And so the timeline I'm going to go through right now will kind of give you just an idea, and we don't have to dive too deep into things, but just kind of gives you an idea of the timeline. Ultimately, as I go through this, the one thing I will try to emphasize as much as possible is that our job in our office, our duty is to collect taxes. Foreclosure is not what we're trying to do. We want to avoid foreclosure. And so during this presentation, I'll kind of talk about our work to prevent foreclosure. But ultimately, that is part of the process.
Let me ask you one quick question. So I don't pay my taxes, let's say this year, 2024. The local city kind of sells that debt to you at the end of 2024. So is it 1 year later?
So it comes over, so you have your summer and your winter taxes, right? But you have until the end of February to pay those taxes.
Okay.
So like your taxes, you're going to get your summer tax bill coming up this summer. Then you'll get a winter tax bill. If you don't pay either one of those or both of those, you don't pay them off by March 1st of 2025, then it comes over to us. And then 2027 is the foreclosure deadline for 2024 taxes. Have different tax years concurrently, right? You can have them, someone could be subject to foreclosure like this year, right? Yesterday was the foreclosure deadline in 2024. So anyone that owed 2021 or prior year taxes was subject to foreclosure. To answer your question again, your taxes this upcoming year for 2024, if you don't pay them, will be turned over March 1st of 2025, and then in essence 2 more years to collect them or enter a repayment agreement, which is something I'll touch on as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. So going back to this example here, just 2022 taxes. So on March 1st last year, again, came over to us. Those are the 2022 delinquent taxes came over. There's an administrative fee that's added, and then there's interest that starts to accrue. One thing I'll tell you is the interest rate is high. Again, we have no control over it. We have no authority to lower interest rates. It is set in statute. And I'll kind of go through that, and you can see that here, but it starts at 12% per year or 1% per month. So that would have been, last year on March 1st. There's notices that go out, so we don't have those listed here, but we are doing our best, again, to tell people you owe taxes, please reach out and make payments or get onto a repayment agreement with us. So there are notifications that are going out during this time that aren't listed on this timeline, just FYI. This is more on some of the fees that are added and then the interest. So on October 1st, there's a $15 notification fee that's added. And then February 1st the next year, lenders and banks will be notified. Mortgage lenders and banks will be notified. On March 1st, there is a penalty, or there's fees added for $235. This could be bad. We do our best to really, again, encourage people to pay, but especially if they have very low dollar amount. It's a vacant parcel and there was $200 worth of taxes or something that was turned over, and then all of a sudden there's a $235 fee that's in statute. Again, we have no control over, so all of a sudden you're doubling what you owe because of that fee that's added. It goes through delinquency first. So when it first got turned over as delinquency, it goes through forfeiture the next year. So that's what you see on that bottom left box, property forfeited to the county treasurer. That is in essence a lien that's put on the property. And then it goes delinquent, forfeiture, foreclosure. So that's kind of the timeline. So unfortunately, the interest rate at that point increases to 18% per year or 1.5% per month. And it goes retroactive back to when it first became delinquent. So again, these interest rates can cause that number to go really high, unfortunately. And again, we have no control over that. So why we want to really encourage people to pay up front. Interest is added the first of every month. So if you paid this off on the 30th, 31st of some month, then there's no interest that's added. And then on there you see June 1st through January 31st of the following year, we do title search to identify any owners and lien holders. We're going through the process. There's a personal visit that's made to the property, and there's that $39 service fee that's added. So if someone goes out there and visits the property and tapes something to the door, if it's a structure or somewhere on the structure, or they stake the property if it is vacant. Again, more information is sent to the mortgage lenders and the banks. There is a $15 fee added there. We do publish all of the names, addresses, and the taxes due in the newspaper. So that goes in the Oakland Press. So there's another fee added then. And then in that February, so what you see here is 2025. So this is now you're getting to the foreclosure year. So these are 2022 taxes. It's now 2025. You have two hearings that you can go to. You're not required to go to, but you're able to go to. One is a show cause hearing, and that is something that I myself and our office we run. And that is something where if people, there are 6 reasons, I don't have them in front of me, but they're very kind of obscure, specific reasons. It's rare that someone falls under one of these reasons, but it's in statute that they should not have been taxed. The tax is erroneous. There's a few other things that I don't have in front of me, but we can get. So there's that hearing that's held. And then there's a judicial foreclosure hearing. So as I go to the next page here, there's a judicial foreclosure hearing. So this is going in front of a judge. And that's when you can actually talk to the judge about your situation and what they can try to do to help. All this time leading up to this point and even through this point, we are doing our best, as I said, to try to reach out and let people know that you owe these taxes. Please reach out to us. Please make payments on it, pay it off in full, or get onto a repayment agreement with us. So the judge works with them as well. If they want to go to the judge, they didn't think what we were doing was fair, or there were some other issues. And then again, March 31st is the last day to pay. Assuming that it falls, I'd have to look on 2025 schedule. But if March 31st falls during the week, then that is the last day to pay. If it falls over the weekend, then obviously it'll be the following business day. And then after that, July through November, this year we have an auction. This is what you asked about buying foreclosed property. We have an auction this year. I think it's August 16th. We have an online website. So 2 years ago we started. So this will be the 3rd year we're working with a company that does online property auctions. They do this for over 70 of the 83 counties, also for the state DNR. And you can go to www.tax-sale.info. Tax-sale.info is the website. So you'll be able to see the properties there. And again, our goal is to have that number shrink as much as possible. There's new legislation that actually I'm a legislator as well. I was a former legislator. I served in the legislature before I became treasurer, and we actually changed the law so that if someone is foreclosed, and anyone that has an interest in the property is entitled to surplus proceeds. So anything that above and beyond what's owed, the taxes, the interest, the fees, maintenance, things like that, and then anything that's sold for, it's sold for above and beyond, someone can file a claim form and they can get those surplus proceeds. So July 1st, so like for this year, right, we had the foreclosure yesterday. July 1st is the deadline for anyone that had their property foreclosed yesterday to submit a form to try to get those excess proceeds. We do our best to be, helpful with people. We're very proactive. We're not required to, but we mail this form out to people. It's on our website. We really encourage people to try to get their proceeds that are due to them. And then there's more. I don't have to go through all this, but ultimately it's the judge that grants it. It's not us in our office. It's through the judicial process, but the judge would grant us paying that money back. And if there's multiple claims on a property, then the judge is the one that has to kind of reconcile who's owed however much. So that kind of gives you an idea of the foreclosure process, and just to give you an idea of kind of what we do in our office. So the last full year that we completed, again, this year in 2024 was 2021 in prior year taxes, but we are still in that process. Again, as yesterday was the deadline, we go through what's called file review just to make sure that we crossed our T's, dotted our I's, did everything possible and everything properly, I should say, to notify people and to make sure they got everything that is required in law for them to know that their property is going to be foreclosed. So we're still in that process. So the last one that we completed was just last year. So this is 2023 foreclosure efforts for preventing foreclosure from 2020 taxes. So just to give you an idea, as that's turned over to us, so you got to think about the hundreds of thousands of properties that are here in Oakland County, and the good thing is we have a for the most part a wealthy county. Not everyone is, and not everyone shares in the same prosperity. So we want to make sure that everyone's taken care of here. But overall, like 96% of taxpayers pay their taxes on time. So they're paying it to the local community and it never actually gets turned over to us. So which is great. So we had in 2020, the 2020 taxes. So in 2021 for those 2020 taxes, 44,000, so just almost 45,000 parcels turned over to us. And then as you look at that next number down, properties that paid the delinquent taxes in full. So of those 44,906, 43,120 paid them in full at some point during that process, right? So it never went to foreclosure. The repayment plans, 1,400, that's us doing robust outreach. Like we have what's called taxpayer assistance meetings, TAMs. They're one-on-one meetings with people to kind of talk through their unique situation and how we can be helpful with them, to get them on a repayment agreement, see if there's grants available to them, see what we can do to help them. So we had that many. And then the foreclosure last year, there was, the numbers are, 368, but there was a program at the state called MyHAP, the Michigan Homeowners Assistance Fund, which was federal COVID relief dollars that people could use, $25,000 if they qualify. It's a grant, and they could use it for their delinquent taxes, their mortgage, their utility bills, condo association fees, things like that. So we had multiple people getting that, and we withheld for that. So last year, we actually had our lowest foreclosure number that we've ever had in our county since the new law was implemented in 2000, 2001. We only had 95 parcels that were at the auction, of which most of those were vacant. So it was either vacant building or just a vacant lot. So we did really, really robust outreach. And so, you can see on the left here, it just talks about those taxpayer assistance meetings that we held. TAMs, there was over 1,200 payment plans that we put people on, over 1,400 of those. So again, figuring out a monthly payment that they can work with, that will get them caught up over a certain time period. So this kind of just goes through all the different things that we did to try to prevent foreclosure. And then we click on the next slide here. And so this is what we were doing this year. So these are our efforts in 2024 to try to prevent foreclosure from the 2021 and prior year taxes. At the top left there, it's a 3-year process. I just went over all of that with you, so don't need to do that one. Again, this year the deadline was April 1st because March 31st fell on the weekend. And so again, we needed by yesterday a full repayment full payment of the delinquent taxes of 2021 and prior, or getting into a repayment agreement with our office. We did our best to really encourage people to reach out to entities that can help. Within our office, we have our financial empowerment center. We have Rita, who runs that department, is like a financial coach. And so she can help people with budgeting, see if there are grants available to them, go through their debt management. Even small businesses try to help people walk through putting together a business plan. So she does a really good job. So we have that within our office. And again, we do those TAMs, those taxpayer assistance meetings, which are one-on-one with the person who is subject to foreclosure and doing what we can to try to prevent foreclosure based on their unique needs. Community outreach. So this was like this year we have 63, 62, 63, depends on how you look at it, but 62 CVTs, cities, villages, and townships in Oakland County. And so I personally did my best to try to get to as many of them as I could in January, February, and even in March to tell the elected officials there, as well as anyone at home and anyone watching their council or township board meetings, that we are here to help, that the tax deadline was coming up, that we, try not to foreclose on anyone, that help is available. And so I went to go meet with as many of those communities as possible. We also did outreach. We did things in the local publication, the CNG papers. We did a commercial on WDIV. We did targeted. So we did our best to really get out and tell people, like, please help us help you, right? We don't know you need help unless you tell us you need help. So
can we go back to you said you had someone there that was really involved in coaching and like looking for grants and things like that. Yeah. Is that one individual or do you have a team of people there?
So as of right now, it is one individual who handles it. Unfortunately, I guess I don't know if it's good or bad, right? But the volume that comes in is not something that's overwhelming for her. So that's Rita, and she's able to do that. And I'm going to give her contact information on the next slide. But she's able to do that. I mean, a lot of people think to reach out to the treasurer's office for that kind of help. But so most of what we're doing is based on when I go out and speak in the community, I give out her information, or as we're doing those TAMs that we talked about, when we're trying to get someone into a repayment agreement, we want to set them up for success moving forward, right? So it's like, okay, here is, you pay, I don't know what the number would be, $200 a month, and that'll hopefully get you caught up in 12 to 14 months, whatever it might be. But we also refer them over to Rita and say, this is just one thing that's going on. Hopefully, you're taking care of your finances and other parts of your life. But if you aren't and you need help, Rita is someone that can help them. So we do internal referrals to her as well. So,
that's really important. We have a partnership with GreenPath. So if we have somebody who's struggling with their payments, we will refer them over to GreenPath. Yeah. But maybe would love to maybe work with her too, if we can refer people back and forth as well.
We'd be happy to. And then that's one of the things coming into this office, right? Like if that need jumps, then that is a position that we would like to fill, is having more support and someone else doing similar work to what Rita does in our financial empowerment center.
Most of our members don't even know that we have GreenPath, and we let them know all the time. It's free to our members, the initial consultation, and we've had a partnership with them for a long, long time.
The foreclosure process and the unpaid taxes will be foreclosed if, again, we haven't entered a repayment agreement, we haven't heard from anyone. So, and then foreclosure is not our goal. Collecting taxes, that's our job. That's what we want to do. We want to try to help people. So if anyone in your family, in your neighborhood that needs help or that is delinquent in the taxes, please have them reach out to us. And then I think this is the second to last slide, but the last slide is just my contact information. So just briefly, again, that's the information for the Financial Empowerment Center. So Rita, who runs that department, you can call her 248-858-0672. Our website, you can go on there to get some more information. One other thing is for those people that have low incomes and live in here in Oakland County, and depending on their community, they can qualify for a poverty exemption, which could reduce their property taxes. So each community is slightly different, and they give you, I think, 25% off, 50% off, 75%, or up to 100% off of your property taxes, depending on your financial situation. But that's something you have to talk to the local assessor about. So depending on what community you live in, again, there's 62 CDTs in Oakland County. I would say about half of them, as I look at the list, I think it's about half of them have their own assessor. And then the other half actually uses the county's equalization department as their assessor. So if it's for county equalization, the number to call for that is 248-858-0740. If it's the local assessor, you'd have to call the local community. And then the last entity, just we like to highlight again, we have no affiliation with them, but they do really great work. And so we send a lot of people over to them, which is Lakeshore Legal Aid. They are a free legal clinic for low-income families and seniors. They handle anything, my understanding, we were told, is anything but criminal law and traffic citations. So they don't handle either of those, but they do just about everything else. So we encourage people to reach out to Lakeshore Legal Aid, and you can call them 1-888-783-8190, and then their website is lakeshorelegalAid.org. And then I think that's it. I think I covered everything.
Okay.
I tried to get through as fast as I could, but again, going back is the last thing I know you asked, and then I think I covered it a little bit, but obviously it was that tax sale. And we will have the sale this year, August 16th. So again, any parcel that was not saved from foreclosure will be up at an auction. And so, again, yesterday was the foreclosure deadline. We still have to go through a file review to make sure that everything was done properly. If not, they are withheld from the foreclosure, but that sale happens in August. And so you'll be able to go online and bid if there's something.
If people bid, do they receive the property immediately, or is there a waiting period?
So it's like an online eBay bid. So, it's a bidding process, and you can set your pre-bids, I think up to the day before, and then it's live bidding that day. And I think it's open till 7 PM. And then if you do, so you put I think it's $1,000 refundable deposit that if you don't win anything, then you get that money refunded.
Okay.
And then ultimately you work with, again, it's an entity that we contract with who runs this. You work with them to make your payment. It's got to be official funds, right? I mean, it's got to be certified funds. And then once that happens, then we do a deed, send over a deed for them. I can't remember the exact timing, but I know it's within a couple to a few weeks. But you're the winning bidder because they notify you within a day or two after, say you're the winning bidder. They give them time to make payment. If they don't make payment, they have to go to the next bidder, right? If they don't fulfill, then they go to the next highest bid. It was in person before. We didn't start the online process till 2022, and I don't know what that waiting period was. But for this one, again, it's making sure that the certified funds are there, or anything goes through, and then ultimately, I know we do have a waiting period. I just don't know exactly how long.
It's a great opportunity for people who probably want to work a little bit, right? Because normally these properties are not in perfect shape.
You're right.
Sometimes they are, but
sometimes, again, you have there was someone who was in a federal lawsuit. Ultimately, once there was, the lawsuit was settled, the family couldn't pay the bills. It had been sitting there and they weren't paying anything, and ultimately got foreclosed. And I think it sold for $700,000-$800,000. I mean, it was like a nice house in West Bloomfield. And so that happens on occasion. It's rare that happens. Most of what, to be honest, most of what is at the auction is predominantly vacant, right? So it's either just it's just vacant land, so it's just grass in essence, or a vacant structure. But, if it is a structure, it usually does need some TLC. A house or any kind of commercial property usually does need a little TLC. We
really appreciate you being here. And is there any way for us to follow you on your campaign as you go through the summer into November?
Yeah, I mean, you go online. You can search my name. I have some social media accounts. I'm not as active on social as I probably should be. I do have a website. It's robertwittenberg.com. So that's kind of that side of it. But the most important thing for me again is the work that we're doing for the residents of Oakland County. So you can go to our website, oakgov.com/treasurer. Treasurer@oakgov.com is the email. Call our office 248-858-0611. However you want to reach out. Again, I just want people to know that we're here to help, working with the local communities and working with residents in other capacities. But this is kind of the bulk of what we do and takes up a lot of our time. But just know that we're here to help.
Robert, I think what I've heard mostly, and it's true, that when you get in a financial situation, it's easy to kind of put your head in the sand and not reach out to anybody. You're embarrassed or whatever. But the earlier they reach out to you, the more options you have to work with them, right?
That's exactly right.
So really, you shouldn't wait, is my point.
We said the same thing today. There was someone who, finally reached out to us today after the foreclosure deadline, and we said, we've been trying to reach you. We left messages. We've done everything. And again, some of these people, people just put their head in the sand. And as I said earlier, and I try to say all the time, is we don't know you need help unless you tell us you need help. So please reach out to us. And the earlier, the better, right? Like, we helped the people that reached out to us yesterday on the deadline, but it's so much easier to get into a better repayment agreement and a better situation if you reach out earlier in the process.
Sure. And we're here to help too. If you do reach out to them and you can reach an agreement, you might have an option where you can borrow some money from the credit union at really good rates. So, working together with Robert's group and People Driven Credit Union, I think you can get yourself out of it. You shouldn't give up. Don't throw your hands up and say, I can't do anything. Be active and take control of the situation and find out what your options are. There might be even more options than we talked about.
What we talked about was tax foreclosure. There's also mortgage foreclosure, which is separate from us, right? That has nothing to do with our office.
Yeah.
That's like a private contract you have with the mortgage company, and the sheriff's office actually does run that auction. But ultimately, it's kind of almost the opposite, right? You foreclosure happens earlier in the cycle for mortgage, and then ultimately you have time to redeem. At our end, you have a 3-year, right? So you have more time on the back end, but you're not able to redeem once the foreclosure happens. Mortgage foreclosure, someone who has a mortgage on their house, and so the taxes, they rarely will it won't get to us because, again, they're not 3 years delinquent on their taxes. So a lot of times the people that we're talking to are homeowners, or they are, they're landlords, or it is someone who got the property from their grandparents or their parents or a sibling or something. It was given to them. So there's no mortgage and all they owe are the taxes. That's why we're like, let us try to help you, right? I mean, you don't have anything else to pay but these taxes. Let us try to help you. And that's where, People Driven could come into play. If, again, I don't know, each financial institution is different, if they would approve someone if they do have delinquent taxes, but maybe that's the help you get from People Driven, is getting that loan to pay those delinquent taxes. So that might be a conversation you'd want to have, because again,
we look at every individual situation individually. We look at the financial situation of the individual, and we have more options than banks. So that's why I would encourage you to reach out to both the Oakland County and our lending department to do that. That
makes sense.
Robert, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I'm going to let you go home and eat now.
Help put the kids to bed. I got it's going to be 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and my wife will be happy that I get home a little earlier.
Well, we appreciate your time very much, and we'll be hopefully talking to you in the future. Good luck on the election.
Thank you so much. Always happy to help, Dave. Nice speaking with you, and everyone that's been watching at home, thanks for tuning in.